it's just going to get worse. That's the spoiler, right? If we don't take management of the energetics that we're spewing all over the place, it gets worse from here. Nothing gets better from here. And read the scripts, right? Just go back to any historical text, any spiritual guidance, anything you can find, go back and find it. And the writing's on the wall. We know it gets worse from here if we don't take a little bit assessment of self, right? And look at what conversations we're having, how we're having them, what we're giving away for free, right? Like, because what, we get upset? Something we weren't even thinking about 2 seconds ago. Now all of our creative energy is divested into that. Well, let me tell you then where that energy is not. It's not with your children. It's not with your spouses. It's not with your business. It's not with your life. It's definitely not with you, because you're now playing somebody else's game, which is fine. Play the game, play the games. They're fun. Play the games, but don't let the games play you. And you have to understand the energetics if you're going to be in these spaces, right? Wasn't it Elon Musk who said Twitter's like a war zone? Like, know that before you go into it. End of story. Like, you know what you're doing. I remember when I enlisted in the Army, I just defended my master's thesis, 27 years old, right? 9/11 happened. And within 2 months, I had enlisted in the Army. And I remember going through basic training, and it was all kind of like, oh, how in the world did I end up here, right? And there was a logical thread, but there was also that very guided field thread that was like, I'm sure somewhere down the road, this is going to click in for me, but right now I'm just kind of moving in that direction. But I remember being an observation of the younger recruits that had come in, 17, 18, 19 years old, those without a ton of life experience beyond what they had been acculturated with at home, and the defensive posturing to the reprogramming, right? The drill sergeants in your face screaming at you like spittle, like it's like, got it, right? It took 2 seconds of all that for me to be like, got it, you run the show, you rock, I suck, like I'll just be over here doing exactly what you tell me to do to the best of my ability. Like, I'm not going to argue with you, because I wanted to see how that reprogramming was working, right? I wanted the reprogramming, that disciplining, but I saw the resistance to that, right? I was like, you can't do this and you can't do this. I'm thinking to myself, like, they signed the same contract I did. Like, it was voluntary. It's still a voluntary military, particularly for females, right? And it's fascinating what we do to ourselves. We volunteer to jump into these conversations. We let ourselves get pulled in like that, and we lose ourselves to them, which is fine. Lose yourself. It's a great ride, right? If you can handle it. But if you're not aware of what you're doing, it creates real damage in your relationships or potential relationships, which also is fine if you're okay with that. But to expect that you're going to have some sort of creative management or intentional creative expression that you can predict in any sort of fashion or funnel or channel into any sort of result, when that's how your energy is being expended, you're setting yourself up for a repeated disappointment. And it creates a lot of problems, right? I mean, I've been interviewing people just on this podcast alone since 2016, but in research environments since the 90s, right? On what's making us click, what's going on inside of those brains of ours, right? Studying this stuff so that we can finally say, okay, I think we got an idea of what's really going on here. And we are more powerful than any of that, right? So remembering that is key. And the best way to remember that is to follow those 2 steps that I mentioned from the CEFA process. Those are the first 2 techniques that we teach: expanding your mind, right? And it sounds simple, but holding that all the way out, you should feel that release. Let's do it together, right? Let's just do it, okay, right? So just right now, imagine that you have a light inside of your heads, and we all have a light inside of our heads. It's flickering there. It's always on. It's like our own little pilot light. It cannot be extinguished until this body is gone, right? And even then it goes on, right? But it's in there. It's there. I promise you that. It is there. It is lit up. I don't care how low you think you are right now. It's lit up in you. So you can imagine that light filling your head. Just and then getting bigger and bigger, and let yourself relax into the idea that this can get bigger. bigger, bigger, and it gets beyond this, beyond the world, bigger, out into what we refer to as creative intelligence, the potential that we all share.